Good afternoon, sports fans, and welcome to the Rotary Club of York, the 26th largest Rotary club in the world, and a club dedicated to imagining and living out the Rotary mission of service above self. I'm Glenn Miller, the club president. Our opening song today, and what else would it be really, but the national anthem, followed by a rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and the Pledge of Allegiance, all led, appropriately enough, by past President Brian Tate. Our invocation will be led by Eric Chase, and our visitors and visiting Rotarians will be introduced by yours truly. Please take a moment to silence your electronic devices, folks.
So as a reminder, the flag is out in the outfield. And as a reminder, remove your caps. I forgot to do that the other year, so do that. And then we will, and yet I'm still a member. Thank you, Al, past President Al. And we're going to be doing Take Me Out to the Ball Game after the national anthem. So Rotarians and guests, please join me. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back, for it's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would prepare yourself in the way you're most accustomed to prayer. Creator God, we just come before you this day and we thank you for the many blessings in our own lives. As we look out over a field covered in a blue sky, we're reminded of the great creation that you have placed us all in. We thank you for the food that has been prepared for us and the hands that served it, that we may continue to nourish our bodies and continue to serve you. We thank you for our speakers today who will tell us about the great and upcoming season of baseball as we rev it up here in York, Pennsylvania. And we thank you for Rotary, who helps us to serve above self and serve our communities in the way. And we ask this in the many names that we call you. Amen.
Is it my imagination, or was that a more enthusiastic rendition of the national anthem than I'm used to hearing at the country club? Well done, Brian. As you might imagine, just by looking around, we have many more visitors than is our typical allotment on a Wednesday. So we are going to forego, as we usually do in this circumstance, naming everyone. But we are grateful for all of the visitors and the visiting Rotarians and dignitaries that are with us today. We're a pretty fun group, even when we're not at the Revolution Park. So please consider coming back to visit us again on a Wednesday at the Country Club of York. And perhaps if it fits your life, consider becoming a Rotarian. We would love to have you. Members, please help me welcome our visitors and visiting Rotarians. Just a few announcements, abbreviated announcements for the good of the order today. Our prayers and good wishes go out to Rotarian Steve Feldman, who is recovering from a bit of recent surgery. The IDEA committee will meet on May the 1st at 8 a.m. via Zoom. The fundraising committee will meet on May the 3rd at 11 a.m. at the Country Club of York. If you need a little more baseball in your life, we have just the thing. We are partnering, as you hopefully remember, with our friends from the Lancaster Rotary Club when Lancaster Barnstormers take on and lose to the York Revolution at Clipper Magazine Stadium in Lancaster on May the 3rd. Please be gracious in victory. Registration for this is now full. But if you would like to be added to the waiting list, please contact past President Rob Bowen, and he'd be happy to add you to that list. And that may be the shortest number of announcements ever in my presidency. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce fellow Rotarian and York Revolution President Eric Menzer to the podium, who will make my job much easier today by serving as the MC for the remainder of the program. Eric is now in his lucky 13th year as York Revolution President, and we are grateful both for his leadership of this key element in our community's success and growth and in his gracious hospitality to us today. Eric, thank you and welcome.
So knowing who the three speakers are today, the first thing I'm going to do is raise the microphone. And there are, if anyone is still out in the hall, there are some more seats right here on the other side. So greetings and welcome to the new Wellspan Park as the Revs launch our sweet 16th season of professional baseball here in York. To lead us off today, it's my pleasure to welcome to York once again the president of the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball, Rick White. Rick has had a varied career, first with Major League Baseball and then national and international sports apparel companies. And for the last 9 years, he's led the Atlantic League as our president. Rick is a graduate of Chapman University, where he did time. That is time behind the plate for a nationally ranked baseball team. And he has a master's degree from another fine Big Ten institution, Purdue University. Please welcome back to York, Rick White.
I have props. Good afternoon, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here. I always look forward to this day for a couple of reasons. Number one, you are such an incredible group, and it is indeed a privilege to be with you. Second, as I've said before, but I will continue to say for as long as you'll have me, I'm going to be here. When I was a young man, I was fortunate enough to win a Rotary Fellowship, and I'll be forever grateful to Rotarians around the world for that opportunity, and I truly am grateful for that. My job today is to tell you a little bit about the league. I'm sorry, am I stepping away? And what I'd like to do is kind of bring you up to date on what's going on with the league, some things we're going to be doing this year, and then we have some special things we'd like to do at the conclusion of my talk. Today, we are on the cusp of our 25th anniversary of play. Now, that was delayed, of course, because of a pandemic, but think about it. The Atlantic League has been around as an independent professional baseball league for 25 years. That's a unique differentiation between us and any other Major League Baseball professional partner league. It talks about stability. It also talks about flexibility. And for the gentleman sitting to my left, it talks about opportunity, because we truly are the premier professional partner league, and we provide more opportunities for more players than any other league other than affiliated minor league baseball in the game. Moreover, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, we're a league that is unafraid to do things, not just to improve our lot or our players' lot, but also the industry. And we're tremendously proud of those things that have occurred this past season, which I'll talk about in just a moment. First, though, I want to talk about this year. This year, we move into our 10th community. You'll recall last year we had 2 teams in Lexington, Kentucky. We now have a team in Frederick, Maryland. It is the 10th club on our roster. In June, they'll announce their new name. For those of you who have gray hair like me, you may remember Question Mark and the Mysterians. And if you do, you will love their uniforms because nobody knows what they're going to be called. Second, we intend to expand again in 2024. I am so happy that York employed Mr. Forney prior to the Frederick news, or the news that I'm about to tell you, which is next year we will begin play in Hagerstown, Maryland. Both locations are closer to his home than York. But next year we begin play in Hagerstown, Maryland. Here's what nobody understands. We also believe the chances are very good we will name another location, this time in a new state, in my experience, Virginia, which, given the mid-Atlantic footprint of our league, we think will be strategically a great fit for what we're trying to do. I want to make a special welcome to the gentleman I just referenced, and that's Rick Forney. Now, Rick and I have talked a lot on the phone, but his reputation well preceded him in terms of our first conversation. He is delighted to be here. Number one, he's in one of the best organizations in baseball. But number two, he's close to his hometown. But number three, doggone it, he's not going to have to be making trips from Winnipeg, Canada to places like Chicago and Fargo and Cleburne, Texas. So his travel hours are going to be reduced significantly. And he's a road warrior, but I think he brings more than that to this league. He is an outstanding manager. There is no question that Rick understands the game inside and out. He is putting together a terrific team. You're going to see a lot of new faces this year. And I dare say you're going to be very pleased with the squads that Rick puts together now and moving into the future. So Rick, welcome aboard. We are also welcoming 2 new managers in addition to Rick, both former major leaguers. One is Homer Jones. He'll be in Staten Island. For those of you familiar with Homer, he used to play with the New York Yankees. Also a New York player, but this time for the Mets, Barry Lyons, former catcher for the Mets and a couple of other squads, will be managing our Lexington Counterclocks Club. We are a Major League Baseball professional partner league. A lot of people don't understand what that means, but the consequence of that is profound. First and foremost, and my friend here, Mr. Menzer, will correct me over and over again when I use the term independent. We finally found a designation that took away the rogue maverick nature of our sport and our clubs. And instead, we institutionalized our presence within the baseball community. We were the first MLB professional partner league, a tremendous accomplishment for the Atlantic League. We led the way. In fact, we introduced them to the American Association, the Frontier League. Ultimately, we embraced and endorsed the idea of the Pioneer League becoming a professional partner league. And as time goes by, you'll see us do more and more things with our counterparts as we move through the Mid-Atlantic, where we are at, the Midwest, where the Frontier League and the American Association are at, and the Pioneer League in the Pacific Northwest. I'll get to that in just a second. Our partner league designation stemmed from our willingness to try things that would benefit our game. I refer to what we do as serving the diamond sports industry. If you think about those little girls who play softball, or those senior citizens who play that same game, or you think about others who develop through baseball, we're all playing some similar sort of bat and ball contact sport. And it's important for us to realize that we can learn lessons and we can impart lessons to people within the diamond sports industry. And we take that role very seriously. We are singly the most forward-looking league without exception in the baseball ranks, especially, but not limited to, the professional baseball ranks. We began with MLB with a simple working agreement. Now, you've heard me talk about this before, but the numbers go up every year. Over our 24 years of play, we have sent more than 1,300 players back to big league organizations. If you do the math, that's a pretty exceptional number. Second, of those 1,300, over 230 have reached the big leagues. And in fact, last year, not only in the World Series, but throughout the season, we had 19 players on big league rosters, 19 alumni playing on big league rosters. Very few leagues can say that. Our relationship moved from a working agreement to one where we began to test rules. Now, these gentlemen over here, I will suggest to you, play at a caliber of a 4A classification. They play to win every night. They are mature, experienced professionals. Roughly 55% of our opening day roster will be populated with players who have Major League Baseball service time, and they're anxious to get back to the show. And because of that, Major League Baseball identified our league as the one they wanted to test out new rules and new experiments that would ultimately benefit the game at its highest level. Virtually every single rule instituted at the Major League Baseball level this year, and I'll suggest to you that it's been introduced to great accolades, both by the popular press and by on-field personnel. Virtually every one of those, whether it's 18-inch bases, an anti-shift rule, pitch clocks, timers, three pitcher or 3 out minimum for pitchers, and every other one started in the Atlantic League. Think about that. Think about the influence these gentlemen are going to have on the future of the game, and think about what we've done already that affects the Phillies, the Orioles, and every other one of the 28 remaining Major League Baseball teams. We make a difference. I'm in the offices of Major League Baseball at least twice a month, usually more. Here's a wonderful distinction. We're the only league ever to have board of directors meetings in the offices of the Commissioner of Baseball. And we've done that, what, Eric, 6 times? Pretty cool, pretty heady stuff. So let me talk to you about this season's generation of test rules. First, we are bringing back the double hook. Now, for those of you who don't understand what the double hook rule means, is that managers will lose the opportunity to have a designated hitter if their starting pitcher fails to go 5 innings. Now, why would Major League Baseball, having adopted a universal designated hitter, bring that back? I already said it. They're trying to find a way for pitchers to go deeper into the game. when I played, it was normal for pitchers to complete games they started, and it was abnormal for them, if they were pitching well, to pitch for less than 7 or 8 innings. That's gone away. Now, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. The game evolves, but Major League Baseball wants to bring that characteristic back. The second thing we're introducing this year is a takeoff on an existing Major League Baseball rule. When a pitcher steps off the mound, whether it's to collect his thoughts, make a pickoff move, take time to take a look at signals, that's called a disengagement. That's a pretty big word for baseball, but it's called a disengagement. At the big league level this year, they will only allow 2 disengagements per at bat for pitchers. The test that we're going to be undergoing starts with 1 out of the box already. So we are limiting pitchers to a single disengagement per bat. Now, again, that's kind of technical stuff. There's some other things that go along with it, but the single disengagement is really going to be very interesting. And again, Major League Baseball wants the game to move along at a faster rate. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. And then finally, and this is the one that I think most people are the most excited about, we are introducing a designated runner rule. This means at any time during a game, after the manager has declared who his designated runner will be, should somebody get on base and the manager want to increase his chances of scoring, he can substitute for that batter runner with the designated runner. The designated runner can finish out a trip around the bases. He only gets to use this once. But interestingly, he can also be reinserted into the game anywhere in the lineup. So it's possible that a designated runner could score and immediately afterwards be inserted into the game as a hitter. So it's going to be a really interesting rule for managers. I can't get into strategy. They're much smarter than I, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. We followed the lead of MLB this year in terms of pitch clock and countdown clock rules. So our pitchers are going to have 15 seconds with a runner on base. They'll have 15 seconds without a runner on base, 20 seconds with a runner on base. During that same period, batters are going to be allowed 1 timeout to step out of the box or pause during each of their at-bats. We also are going to change a little bit. Last year, we were at 1:45 between innings, but because we just signed a new broadcasting agreement, we're going to now extend that to 2 minutes between innings. That gives us plenty of time to complete on-field promotions, which are part of the lifeblood of our teams. But it also gives us the opportunity to help our clubs generate and drive more revenue as they sell advertising on our new broadcasting opportunities. So those are the test rules. Those are our kind of big rule changes this year. But we continue to lead the industry. For the first time in our 25-year history, this year, in fact, just 2 weeks ago, we signed our first ever broadcast deal. It's a streaming deal. It takes advantage of trend where content is now more and more being delivered via digital devices as opposed to analog devices. It takes advantage of trend where more and more we're seeing less linear TV, less cable TV as people try to monetize content, whether they're Disney or Paramount or NBC or the typical networks we're all familiar with. We're doing the same thing. We're partnering with a group called Flow Sports. We will be their premier property in a sports vertical that they've named Flow Baseball. Clever, those guys, huh? Clever. But again, we will be the first league listed. We will be dominating their masthead. And for the first time in the history of our league, we will be providing signals to both home audiences and away audiences when our clubs go on the road. And that's a big, big development for our league. You're all familiar with this if you were here last year. You know that we literally reinvented our official baseball. Eric alluded to some of my experience in the past, and I have a fair amount of experience with international companies. And one of the things I learned along the way was about certain sourcing procedures, particularly those in Asian provinces. Let's just say that. What we did was we identified a province in China where they have 14 different baseball factories. Previously, we were using a Rawlings minor league baseball. This was not brain surgery. You just got to know how to do it. 6 of the factories in this province made Rawlings baseballs. Now, what people don't understand is baseballs are not altogether simple, but every baseball used in professional baseball starts its life and its production cycle in Asia, even Major League baseballs. They take wound baseballs, these are just wound with thread and yarn and that sort of thing, and they ship them off to Costa Rica where they're stitched, and those become Major League baseballs. We are playing with Major League baseballs in our league. These are superior to minor league baseballs. I know this because we tested them. And we tested them in the same labs that Major League Baseball tests their labs in, or tests their baseballs in. And so we have their specs, we just mimicked them. Wasn't hard to do. They're not copyrighted or protected by patent. And so last year we created our own baseball. It was without question an unqualified success. In my world, in Rick Forney's world, you know you have something good on the field of play when players don't complain about it. Sorry, guys, but that's just the way it works. Nobody said anything other than, we love this baseball. How did we do it? Very few people realize that we did it. We are now making baseballs for other partner leagues. Imagine that. The Atlantic League is making baseballs for the Pioneer League. We're soon going to be making baseballs for the United Shore Professional Baseball League. We're going to be making baseballs for the Frontier League in 2 years, the American Association in 2 years. They have existing contracts they want to work through. So we're doing things that influence the game and are well beyond our footprint. Here's the news I'd like to share with you about this little ball. Yesterday, I'm about to increase the number of people who know this news by about a multiple of 30. Yesterday, the Hall of Fame contacted us to tell us they have now taken this baseball and they put it in their permanent collection. How about that? We're pretty proud of that. Now, this baseball has inspired another one, which is a little different. I'm not so good on anniversaries and things like that. My wife is here and she'll tell you about that. But I've learned that in your 25th anniversary is a silver anniversary, right? So we've done something that's never been done before, taking a completely original product, which is our official baseball, and we've created a 25th anniversary silver baseball. Now we've created 120 of these baseballs. I know this because we numbered every one of them. And I'm looking at number 30 of 120 silver baseballs. You're going to say, well, so what? Well, Glenn mentioned earlier, and I want to talk about the fundraising committee, because Eric and I have an idea that we hope will be a Kickstarter for the fundraising committee. Eric. I need to say goodbye. Oh. Thank you all. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
All right, so Some of you may know that Give Local York is our presenting partner for the Revs for our 2023 season. And I realized by hogging up the agenda today, we precluded a Give Local announcement. And so I thought what we would do here is a little pledge silent auction real quickly. And we know we can all trust you because you're Rotarians. And what I want to do is find out who will pledge to give the largest amount next Friday to the Rotary effort within Give Local York, and they will be taking home this baseball. So we'll just do this real quickly, auction style. Anybody want to start at a pledge of $100 for Give Local York for Rotary? There's 100. How about 125? Anyone? 125, 150, 200. I still have 200, 225. I'm at 200. Anyone at 225? Once? Oh, 225. There we go, Josh. How about 250? Anyone at 250? 250 back here. How about 275? Anyone at a 275 pledge? Back quarter? Is there a 275? It better not be our players. Anybody? I think we're at 250 over here. Anybody at 275? I've got a bunch of 275s all of a sudden. Let's go to 300. Anyone at 300? There we go. Let's jump to 400. What the heck? Rick, don't raise your hand. Be careful. Anyone want to just go straight to 400? How about 350? Anyone at a $350 pledge? I think would be where we are. There we go at 350. How about 375? Anyone at 375? 350 going once? Oh, there we go. 375. Anyone want? I'm going to run out of time here if we don't make this quick. Anyone here at 400? First person at 400 gets it. Let's round it off at 400. Anyone at 400? There we go. In the back corner, Jackie Summers has got it at $400. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Jackie. And again, Give Local is our presenting partner this year. We're going to be working with them all season. Thank you very much for that. So there you go, President Glenn. We're off to a good start. All right. You know, this is one of my favorite days of the year for a lot of obvious reasons. And this year in particular, so much anticipation in the air, so many new things going on, a new ballpark name, a new manager, many new faces on the roster who you'll meet in just a minute. And importantly, the most important new thing, wait for it, new bathroom floors. What are you laughing at? Now, I know that does sound a little weird that I would be so excited about bathroom floors, but it's because it's indicative, at least I want it to be indicative of the standards that we try to uphold here to give York an outstanding community venue, to give to provide our fans with an outstanding community and family experience. Our public restrooms here on the Stella Skybox level and down at the concourse, those floors were 15 years old. They were pretty worn. They were pretty grungy. So over the winter, we ground them down and we poured new epoxy floors, and I could not be more excited. I don't know about you all, but clean, fresh bathrooms are a pretty important part of a hospitality experience as far as I'm concerned. So I'm pretty pleased with that. So on to some other new things, starting with our expanded relationship with WellSpan Health. Of course, we've had a relationship with WellSpan since the ballpark opened in 2007, but we owe WellSpan a huge thank you for their expanded 10-year commitment to our naming relationship. Of course, it is a key part of our business, but well beyond that, we can only be a community-centric business with community-centric business partners. WellSpan's commitment to the York community is obvious at many levels, and that includes, in this case, the recognition that the health of a community is more than just treating disease. It's about making sure that we have fun things for families to do, great places for companies to hold events, and a great venue to host autism walks, Little League games, Frisbee golf tournaments, cancer fundraisers, and yes, this year, even professional wrestling. So please join me in thanking WellSpan for their awesome support. But as they say, wait, there's more. A couple weeks ago, I wore this hat at our club meeting to make the announcement. And I told you that if you came today, you'd find out what it was all about. This is our Ritmo de York hat, our York Rhythm hat. Joining many other minor league teams across the country, this year we'll play 5 games as a different team, a team that pays homage and taps into York's vibrant Latino community, Ritmo de York was developed in consultation with a number of members of that community, and it pays tribute to the musical and rhythmic heritage of the Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Mexican communities that are predominant in York. So for 5 games this year, we'll add some Latino flair off the field as well, with music, food, and Spanish language PA work. We think it'll be a lot of fun, and we hope you'll join us for our 5 Ritmo de York games on Sunday afternoons. Now, the Ritmo de York initiative is not the only way. We're continuing our drive to be the most welcoming place in York. Wellspan Park is now the first minor league baseball in Pennsylvania to be certified as a sensory-friendly environment by Culture City, a national organization that advocates for people with sensory and invisible disabilities. All of our employees have been trained and passed testing on how to serve those customers, and we have special spaces within the ballpark and kits that can be borrowed so that those with sensory challenges can enjoy our games. Now, as with any season, we have a ton of great promos, including the return of fireworks every Saturday night, 5 WellSpan Wellness Weekends, our celebration of abilities on May 7th, presented by Penmar Human Services, Pride Night with a Pride jersey auction presented by JLS Automation, Marvel Superhero Night and a jersey auction presented by Give Local York, Faith Fest presented by the Children's Aid Society, Discover Hanover Night presented by the Markets at Hanover, Napoleon Dynamite Night complete with Uncle Rico. Yeah. And finally, for our July 4th game presented by Traditions Bank, the return of the York Symphony, leading into our fireworks spectacular. And both of those are thanks to the generosity of Gladfelder Insurance and the Powder Mill Foundation. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. You can see the whole lineup on our website. We also have 3 fun new ticket plans. Our Wolf Pack Canine Club, get it? The Wolf Pack. And that's presented by the SPCA. Cycling Sundays on our new fireworks plan, where you get to watch the spectacular fireworks on the field from the dugout. And finally, the new thing that seems to get the biggest reaction whenever I mention it, the return of soft serve ice cream. Now, I don't know why some people think that's better than new bathroom floors, but to each their own. Soft serve ice cream will anchor a new section of the first base concession stand when we open the 2023 season at home here a week from Friday on May 5th. Of course, the other new thing here at Wellspan Park is our new manager, Rick Forney, and his coaching staff. And when we had a manager opening, I had 3 criteria for our new manager. First, he needed to be a proven winner on the field. So I have been known to point out that we're not just a sports business. We are serious about good baseball, and we are serious about winning championships. Second, he needed to be someone who had proven character, someone who would take our role in the York community as seriously as we do, someone who would make us proud as a representative of York throughout the Atlantic League. And finally, he needed to be someone who wanted to make our organization a home, someone who would become part of the Revolution family, and someone who wanted his family to be part of ours. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about his baseball story that brought him to York, but I'm happy to say we found our guy. Please welcome the new manager of the York Revolution, Rick Forney.
Thank you, Eric. I promise I won't speak as fast as Eric. I won't even try. He's incredible. True story about me. As a 17-year-old college freshman, I dropped my introductory to speech class because I was terrified to get up and speak in front of 15 people. So I obviously got some bad advice from my academic advisor. Let me start out by saying thank you to you guys for not only being here today, but spending part of your spring and summer with our club. It's very much appreciated. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to our players. We'd like to play in a ballpark that has fans cheering us on every day. It gives you a little extra juice as you get into the dog days of the summer. But yeah, I was born and raised in Annapolis, Maryland. I live in a small town now called Adamstown, Maryland. It's just outside of Frederick, so I'm about 75 miles from York. It takes me about an hour and a half driving down some of the backcountry roads. I am not commuting every day. I am going to be part of the York community, just not every day. Just depends on how long our games are. But I very much look forward to getting home on some off days and spending some time with my family. My wife, Eric, and I have been married for 27 years. We were parents to 4 kids. And this season will mark the 33rd consecutive season of professional baseball for me. The last 26 years, I was with the Winnipeg Goldeyes in the American Association in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Anybody here besides some of my players that's been here? Does anybody here know where Winnipeg is? I didn't. I just assumed it was up by Toronto, Montreal. That was Canada to me, but Winnipeg is roughly 1,700 miles away from here in the middle of the country, kind of 3.5 hours north of Fargo. Very appreciative of my time there. I was there as a player, a coach, in the last 17 years as a manager. We were fortunate enough to win some ball games because we had some good players that were invested in what we were doing and played hard for me every day. We were very lucky to win 3 championships there. Most importantly, we moved over 60 guys in my 17 years as manager back to Major League Baseball, which is super important because these guys play this game because they're still living a dream and wanting to get to the big leagues. And for some of them, it's going back to the big leagues. But we moved a lot of guys back, and we're proud of that. In fact, left-handed pitcher Brendan Bernardino, who pitched for me in 2019, pitched for the Red Sox in Camden Yards against the Orioles 2 nights ago. So it was nice to see him do that. Winnipeg was a great experience, and I think it caught the baseball world or independent world, or now as we call it, the Major League Partner League world by surprise when Rick Forney chose to resign from Winnipeg because just it'd been my home for a long time. And yeah, I walked away from a job that very fortunate to have and probably could have had all the way into my retirement. But the reason I'm here in York is so I could be close to my family. As many of you don't know, and sorry, I'm getting a little emotional, and my players don't know, but my wife, Eric, and I, we lost our oldest child in February 2020. He was the 22-year-old football player that passed away in his dorm room at the United States Naval Academy. He passed away from sudden cardiac arrest, totally unexpected. Yeah, so it devastated our family, and obviously Winnipeg was really tough to continue to go back to, just because I needed to be closer to home. I love my job and wanted to keep doing it. So I got a call from a good friend of mine who happens to own the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs. His name is Jack Lavoie. And he said, "Rick, are you ready to come home?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'm ready. Why? What's going on?" He said, "The York job's going to be available." He said, "Would you be interested in talking with them about it?" I said, "Absolutely. It's close to home, and I've heard nothing but great things about it." So Jack connected Eric and I, and we had a great conversation. And the next week I came up, met with Eric again and John Gibson. Things went really, really well. And here I am today. I'm the manager of the York Revolution. So thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. But that's how I ended up here in York. I'm very, very proud to be here. I'm excited about the opportunities. A little scary going from a place that I've been for 26 years, but I'm excited about it. I'm very passionate about independent baseball. It means a lot to me. Winning baseball games is super important to me. And we're very much looking forward to the start of the season on Friday night in Lexington. Now this year, obviously, Eric was asked me if we'd go through a roster rebuild, and it wasn't without its challenges, but it was a lot of fun doing this because I got to meet a lot of nice people. And as a manager, when you're doing this for a while, you learn some things that are important to you and some that aren't so important to you. But we can all identify good players. You know, when we get contacted by agents or Major League Baseball teams about players that are available, we instantly get on Baseball Reference and we look up their stats and see if they might be a fit. But as you get a little bit older, you not only look at that, you try to spend as much time educating yourself about that player, what kind of person he is and what you're going to have in your clubhouse and your community, because at the end of the day, that's probably going to be more important than somebody's going to hit 340 for you with a couple home runs. You need to make sure you're building a clubhouse full of good people. And we feel like we've done that this year. We got some great kids here that we really have fallen in love with in a hurry. And I'm excited to watch them play. So let me introduce these guys to you. First, our coaches, our pitching coach is a local guy, pitched here for the Revs. His name is Joe Harris. Will you stand up, Joe? So our hitting coach is Derek Wolf. And we'll start with some outfielders here. Trey Martin, who's new to York. Jacob Rhinesmith. And returning is Troy Stokes Jr. Some of our infielders, Big Papa's back, Nelly Rodriguez. A young player with a bright future, Alejandro Rivera. Infielder that spent a little bit of time in the big leagues with the Cubs, Trent Jimbroni. Infielder Drew Mendoza. Infielder Jalen Miller. And infielder Alexis Pantoja. We got some pitchers on our staff here that we'd like to introduce to you. Tasker Strobel. Blake Rogers. Nick Roquet. Greg Menier. Greg will be our opening night starter Friday in Lexington. Denson Hall. JT Henson. Justin Goosen Brown. Melvin Correa. Will Carter. Victor Capian. Tom Sutera. JP Woodward. And Noah Zavalos. And that's our team. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, Rick and Rick. I that's the only thing that's made my life a little more difficult recently is having two Ricks in my life. But we are open. We have a few minutes for some questions, and they could be questions for Rick White, Rick Forney, or me. So far away. Al.
I have two questions. One is, I know Canada had a player. Were there any other Atlantic League players in the World Baseball Classic?
So the first question was, were there any other Atlantic League baseball players in the World Baseball Classic other than for Canada? You got to speak up. You got to come up here for the Zoom broadcast.
That is a great question, and I'm delighted to tell you that we had 18 players participate in the World Baseball Classic.
Second one there.
Yeah, the other one was, why did we choose to go to one when Major League Baseball started two? That's a hardship.
It's a challenge, no doubt about it.
Question.
Oh.
That an audience at home.
The question, the question is, why did we elect to go to one disengagement when Major League Baseball has two? The nature of our relationship with MLB is they are the big dog. They dictate to us what the test rules are going to be, and we say, yes, sir, thank you very much.
Bill back here. Bill.
Your prominent camera angle with sponsorship advertising. Major League Baseball now student passes. I'm wondering if that is being thought about again, the advertising real estate.
The question is, a few years back, we introduced catcher's gear that was highly decorated and thematically decorated with the marks of the home team. It goes on to, would we ever consider that to be sponsorable real estate? So the short answer is yes. And yes, we did introduce it, and yes, we think there's an opportunity. In the past, we've actually had sponsored jerseys when we had travel teams, and that was one of the ways we could defray costs with our travel teams. The real interest in the highly decorated catcher's equipment wasn't necessarily commercial in the way you might think with advertising, but in fact, at the time, we had an agreement with the manufacturer of that gear, Rawlings, where if we could show there was a market for it, they would produce it. Now, I won't get into all the vagaries of it, other than the fact that we thought we had illustrated that there was a significant demand for a product like that. They disagreed with us, and so they declined the opportunity to move forward. It's not a coincidence we're making our own baseball. I just
Questions? I guess we need more spring training for player introductions. Tom.
You notice the Rotary banner out on the wall, can you just point that out so everybody sees it? I'm not sure if there's a story behind that, I wanted to make sure people saw.
The Rotary is up on the video board and the LED boards because you all are here. So thank you for being here. Other questions? Yeah, no.
the question is, what other rules do we see coming? And to what degree do we have input into a discussion around the rules, either, I'm going to say, prior to or afterwards? The rules themselves, given the way our contract reads, are literally dictated to us by Major League Baseball. There have been times when we have taken a big gulp. I can recall a couple of years ago when we moved the pitcher's rubber a foot, and we just said, oh my God, what are we doing? That happened to cost us a lot of players, a lot of really good players. But we're good partners. We executed the agreement. We did what we were supposed to do, and we got through that season. Now, having said that, Major League Baseball closely monitors all of the performance of our players. You're all familiar by this time with the TrackMan units that occupy the press box level here and in all of our ballparks. Every night, our stats are uploaded to all of the 30 Major League Baseball clubs' player development departments. Following the season, we always have a post-mortem where we review what happened the previous year. And our comments tend to be a little bit more personality and emotional as opposed to quantitative. Now, having said that, let me answer your first question. There is no question in my mind that something that happened in York first is going to be in Major League Baseball someday, and that's automated balls and strikes. It has gotten progressively better as it's moved through various testing scenarios. We had it for a year and a half. Other leagues have tried it out. Major League Baseball has dithered a little bit with the strike zone, which for some is difficult to accept. But the issue isn't accuracy. The issue is, how will they deploy it? They probably won't deploy it as thoroughly as they did in our league, where every single pitch was there. But I do think that the majority of pitches someday are going to be determined by an automated balls and strike system.
Any more? One more. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so the question was about what we collectively refer to as our community ownership group. 33 people spearheaded by Bill Shipley, and a number of those community owners are in the room with us today. If I started to try to name them, I'd miss somebody and I'd get myself in trouble, so I won't do it. But you know a lot of them, and it's been public, so it's not that I'm trying to hide anything. This started as an effort to generate new investment in the ball club to help us finance these renovations of this room and other facilities at this level of the ballpark. But we figured out as we started that as a largely financially driven investment opportunity for folks in the York community, that there was a magic to it. And the magic is having 33 Yorkers, people who are deeply rooted and or deeply committed to this community, 33 Yorkers invested in our success. Not just in the success of the team on the field, but invested in our success as a business and invested in our success as a community enterprise, operating a community building. And so as we started to work our way through, we thought, not only do we want to invite new people into the ownership, but we want to make it more accessible. We want to model at the ownership level what we've been trying to do at the fan level and the community level, being the most welcoming place in York. We wanted more people to have an opportunity to be business owners and to be part of that York Revolution family. So we created an ownership model as we went along that created that accessibility, and we were very intentional in trying to diversify that ownership group. As far as I know, there's only one other professional sports organization in America that has as large of and diverse as a group of us as ours, and that's the Green Bay Packers. And they've got about 4,000 community owners through a publicly traded share program in Green Bay. As far as I know, as far as I've been able to find out, we trail only the Green Bay Packers in our community ownership model. It's something that we're very proud of and that we feel very good about. In fact, I'll toot our own horn a little bit. We won the Diversity Impact Award from the York County Economic Alliance this year, specifically for that intentional effort to diversify our ownership group. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric. A lot of tall people up here. Mr. White, thank you for being back with us again. It's always a really genuine treat for us to have you here and for our community to hear the larger picture of what's happening in the league. And a special thank you for the gift of the silver baseball. That was very kind. And we're now officially kicked off on Give Local York. So thank you for having done that. And finally, Mr. Forney, coming from Winnipeg, I hope that you have already discovered that we are warm here in more ways than one. I hope you've experienced a warm welcome from this community, and I'll just speak for all of us in saying we're delighted that you're here and grateful for that. We're going to have a book donated called The Skunk and Badger by Amy Timberlake, which will be donated to the York Day Early Learning at York Tech, along with a bookmark created by students at Creative York. Next week, we will hear from Lindsay Sturkey, Chief Program Officer for Communities in Schools in Pennsylvania, or CISPA. CISPA is an affiliate of the National Communities in Schools Network, which operates in 27 states and the District of Columbia and serves more than 1.2 million youth annually. The mission of CISPA is to surround students with a community of support, empowering them to stay in school and achieve in life. In 2014, CISPA launched its first school-based programs in the school district of the city of York. Lindsay is passionate about national service and building capacity in our communities to make them safer, stronger, and healthier. Lindsay will be speaking to us about CISPA's mission and vision, their impact in the region, and their plans for the future. Our closing quote today comes from our own Lynn Morrison, who says, "Imagine life without baseball. Now slap yourself and never do that again." Ladies and gentlemen, our meeting is adjourned. Have a good day.